Okay, welcome back. So in this video we will learn that superclass variable can reference subclass object. As I told you in the previous video, this is actually kind of start of third principle of Java, which is polymorphism. You can implement polymorphism when you are storing object of derived class in the reference of superclass, right? uh, you can understand this whole concept with one example. So say for example, I have a class, I call it superclass, right? This is my superclass, and here I have a class which is a subclass, right? This extends from superclass, this extends from superclass, right? uh, so here we have got an arrangement of class superclass and then an arrangement of a subclass which is extending from superclass, right? Now what I do, I declare another class, I call it sub super demo, right? Inside this I got public static void main string arg, right? Now here what I'm going to do, I say super class uh, super super class yeah, super class, I call it maybe super equal to super class, right? We are going to create object of superclass, and I doubt this is keyword, so I cannot use super, right? So superclass is equal to new superclass, and then I say subclass, um, I say uh, subclass equal to new subclass, right? Now what we have done, we have created an object of superclass and we have also created an object of subclass, right? Now obviously you are pretty much clear that on reference of superclass, this is very ordinary thing, you have been doing it for a few months. By using reference of superclass, you can obviously call only those methods which are available inside superclass, not only method but also variable. But when you talk about subclass, you know that you can access all those variables which are in derived class as well as those are in base class. Unless they are private, you can access everything, right? But then there is third arrangement, and that third arrangement is quite interesting. When you say is equal to AC, now what you are actually doing, now you are storing inside reference of superclass, you are storing object of subclass, right? Now remember, when this is the arrangement, then there are obviously certain restrictions. The restriction number one is, this is the, you know, object, this is the reference of the superclass, so it can access all those member variable which are defined in base class as well as in derived class, and it can also call those methods or variable which are defined only in base class, but it cannot call or refer to those member variable or methods which are only defined in derived class. For example, see here, I know that you can understand only with the example, you cannot understand it without example, so I give you example. So if I say void, I call it method 1, right? I call it method 1, and this does nothing, this just says system.out.println I am method 1 in superclass, I am method 1 in superclass, right? Okay, and then I define another method, void method 2, which I say this will say control C, control V, I am method 2 in superclass, right? Okay, now what I do, I declare another method here, right? Okay, I call it method 3, I call it method 3, and then I say I am method 3 in superclass, right? And then I do a method overriding. This is very important. See here, control V, I say method 1, which I have already declared here, I am going to override. Remember, overloading is different from overriding. Overriding means you are going to rewrite same method which is in base class, and you again define it in derived class with same signature. Remember, when there is method overloading, then signature has to be different, but in method overriding, signature is also same. So you can see here I have void method 1, and same method void method 1 I have declared in the derived class, and here this says I am method 1 in subclass, right? I am method 1 in subclass, right? Okay, now let us see what we can do with S, what we can do with SC, and what we can do with S equal to SC. Of course, when you are using S, it means that S is the reference of superclass and it is storing object of superclass. So you can call method 1 and method 2 from superclass. You cannot call method 3 or method 1 from derived class, because you know that parent does not have qualities of child. Parent is obviously not driven from the child. So you cannot call anything on S which is declared in subclass, right? Similarly, when you are in SC, you can call method 3, obviously because method 3 is declared in the subclass. You can also call method 2 because it is in the base class. But when you call method 1, it actually depends on which object you are referring to. So here it is the object of derived class, so the method will be called from the derived class. Here method will not be called from the base class, method will be called from the derived class. This is same concept as the member variable hiding. So here when you call method 1 on the object of subclass, here method 1 from base class is hidden, so you cannot refer method 1 from the base class. So when you call method 1 on SC, this will actually call method 1 from the derived class, not from the base class, right? So let us first see this behavior of method overriding. So if I say SC dot method 3, obviously you can call it, this will come from derived class certainly, because we have declared it into the derived class. Similarly, you can call method 2, you can call SC dot method 2, and you know that method 2 is not declared in the derived class, so method 2 will actually come from the base class, the superclass, right? But when you write SC dot method 1, now there is a confusion. The confusion is where the method should be called from, whether from subclass or from superclass, because method 1 is declared in superclass and method 1 is also declared in subclass. Remember, when there is method overriding, then you will have to see which is the object. So because this is the object of derived class inside SC, so the method will be called from the derived class, right? So this method will be called from derived class because there is no method 3 in base. This method will be called from base class because there is no method 2 in subclass, so it will search for method 2 from the base class, so obviously it will come from here. And when it comes to method 1, this is available in both, but because it is object of derived class, so method will be called from the derived class, right? So this should be the output. IAM method 1 in subclass. For when you call method 1, this should be the output. This should not be the output, which says I'm from the superclass. It should actually be from the subclass. Let's compile it. Let's see its behavior. The name is super demo, right? So we save it. I name it to this .java. We save it. Clear screen. Java C super demo.java. Alright, there are some errors. Let's find out. Obviously these are not the errors, rather this is print lb, control flb. Where is lb? Control flb, right? Control flb. I have written here, I should have written ln, right? Okay, this is the problem in copy paste. You make error at one place, it will be replicated at all places. Okay, so Java C right, Java super class demo. You can see here IAM method 3 in super class, understandable because there is no method 3 in drive class. IAM method 2 in super class, it is coming from the base class, and IAM method 1 in subclass. This is interesting. IAM method 1 in subclass. So you can see method 1 is here as well as method 1 is here, but this method is actually coming from the drive class. I should have written here subclass. So when you recompile it, when you run it, so you can see IAM method 3 in subclass, IAM method 2 in superclass, and IAM method 1 in subclass. So when there is a method overriding, the method which will be called, it actually depends on the object, and because object is of the derived class, so method will be called from the derived class. In a way, method 1 in that case is actually hidden, right? This method 1 from the base class is actually hidden, so it will call method from the derived class. Okay, great. Now up to this point things were quite easy. I just comment these three. Now let's see what happened with this. When you've got reference of base class and object of derived class, you can do that. This is just like implicit casting, and we covered when we were discussing primitive data type. It is just like you are trying to do thing like this, double d equal to 20, right? So you are trying to put an integer inside double. Now because double is bigger than integer, so you can keep it. Or even more intuitive, if I say long a equal to 20. Now you know that 20 is integer, but you are going to store it inside a long. Absolutely fine. So this is kind of parent and this is kind of child. So object of child class can be stored in the reference of base class, but other way around is not possible. I mean, if you say C, which is actually a reference of subclass, and if you say C equal to is, this is not possible because you are trying to put jug inside a class. You are trying to put double inside an integer, so obviously bigger cannot come into smaller, right? So this is not possible where you are trying to store object of parent class into reference of subclass. You will see that this will be an error. CLS Java C, you can see incompatible type, superclass cannot be converted to subclass. Yes, there is a way around. We can perform casting. I do not want to discuss it here. It is one of the future topics. This casting is possible, but we'll see it in future, right? So now I come back to the discussion of storing object of derived class in the reference of base class, and then let's see which things are possible to be called. The first category of the possible things which you can call is actually those methods or variables which are declared inside base class. You can do that, right? Those things which are declared in base class, you can call them, right? So see here, if I say ace dot inside base class, you have got method 1, you have got method 2. So method 2 is inside base class, so you can call it, you can call it, you can call method 2, right? You can call method 2. Let's see if it is possible. CLS Java C Java sub super demo. You can see I am method 2 in superclass. I am method 2 in superclass. Now if you see method 3, now this is the method 3 which is not declared in base class, but it is declared only in derived class. Let us see if we can call it. If I write here ace dot method 3, ace dot method 3. Now remember, method 3 is only declared in subclass, it is not declared in base class or in superclass. CLS, I compile it. You can see here, cannot find symbol ace dot method 3, right? So the second category, those methods which are declared in subclass but not in base class, they cannot be referred. I mean, it makes sense, huh? Because you are trying to call method on the reference ace. Now ace is the reference of superclass, and ace does not know method 3 because method 3 is declared in derived class. It is a kind of addition that subclass has done into itself. It is just like I am derived from my father. I have learned Java. Now my father does not know Java. If he tries to execute some methods of Java, obviously he will fail, right? So all my properties which I have done additionally are not accessible to my father. So method 3 is just like that additional thing that subclass can do but superclass cannot do. So here this category where those methods or variable which are declared inside a subclass but not in base class are not accessible, right? We got this idea, huh? So this is an error, right? This is an error. Okay, this will be an error. This is an error. You cannot do that because method 3 is actually declared inside derived class, and ace, which is reference of superclass, it does not know what is method 3. It does not know what is method 3. Okay, great. Now the third category, if I call those methods which are declared in both base and derived, you know that method 1 is declared in derived as well as in base, right? Now this method, because ace knows the method 1, ace knows method 1, right? So this should be able to call it method 1, right? So this method 1 should be accessible. Let us see it, right? CLS Java C, you can see it is possible. It means that those methods which are declared in both base and derived, super and sub, they are possible to be called on the reference of base class. Now the next question, the confusing one, eh? Method 1 is available in both, you know, in derived class as well as in base class. Now the question is, which method will be called? Whether it will be called from the base class or it will be called from the derived class. Now the answer is, it depends on the object, not the reference. Although the reference is the reference of base class, but this base class is actually storing object of derived class. So it will always depend on which object you are using. So here the object is of the derived class, that is the reason why object is of the derived class, that is the reason why method will be called from the derived class. So in this case the method will be called from the derived class. You will see that I compile it, and then when I run it, method will be called from the derived class. So you can see I am method 1 in subclass. I am method 1 in subclass. Right. So this is the third category. The third category is those methods which are declared in both super and subclass are possible to be called. The actual method call will depend on the object type, not the reference type, which means the method will be called from the subclass. You have seen this happening. Okay, I hope you have got this concept clear. You need to understand this concept, because this concept is actually going to lead us to the third principle of object-oriented programming, which is polymorphism. So I stop this video here. I come back and then we'll discuss another concept, which is the constructor of base class. Right. Thank you very much.